Hello out there in BitChute land. And I wanted to make a video about Fuentes and this recent controversy he has been in kind of on Twitter and Telegram. He just goes on to Twitter and all of a sudden he's in a controversy with Steven Saylor. Now, Steve Saylor, if you don't know who he is, um, he's a writer and he tends to appeal to white nationalists. He tends to promote things such as the bell curve, and he talks about race and so forth. And Murray, the author of the bell curve, he tends to be along those lines. So a little bit of um, an intellectual racism, if you will. But here's the deal with Saylor. He's also had alluded to the fact, well, he was adopted apparently, and it seems to me that it's very probable that he was of Jewish origin. I'm not sure about that. It hasn't been made definite, but there was a somebody posted a picture on Twitter where they identified him as being a Satanist, and he denied being a Satanist because it was a picture of someone who kind of looked like him hanging out with Boyd Rice and Nickolas Schreck and a few other people from that 1980 satanic scene. But he came out and he denied that. He denied that very quickly. But the other allegation about him and people such as Bronze Age pervert is came out that he's Jewish, obviously, is that he's been accused of being Jewish. Now that he hasn't denied, as far as I know. And this is where the controversy is because Bronze Age pervert is, promoting this sort of white ethnicity and so forth against, you know, black culture or other cultures. But it's misdirection. Here's a Jewish person doing it. Now, um, Nicholas Fuentes, is a sort of a strange person to be doing this as well, and I'll get into because I've always had a kind of a love hate thing with Nicholas Fuentes, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But if you've been following this controversy, Steve Saylor again is somebody who has appeared, at the Vidair Castle, and he's promoted along with great people in the white nationalist movement. I've seen a picture of him, hanging out with Emily Eucas down at VDare, and basically uh, Emily Eucas is there, you know, almost defending him. But I think that Steve Saylor is sort of a sheep in wolf's clothing. That the Jewish, and he even written an article very recently where he accused wokeness of not being a product of Jewish political correctness. No, he claims that it has something to do with the Christian or the Protestant Puritan formation of this country, which is just insane. That's not where it comes from at all. So it's very clear, and Nicholas Fuentes had a lot to do with pointing this out. Now, Nicholas Fuentes, again, I made some articles as a few weeks ago, a few months ago at this point, where he came out swinging against Patriot Front. He basically alluded to the fact that Patriot Front are feds. To his credit, he didn't actually say that Patriot Front are feds, but he was very critical of them, to say the least. And I find that disheartening because I honestly feel that people such as Nick Fuentes and Patriot Front should be working together because they have the one common enemy, which is Jewish political power. All right, if you cannot name your enemies, and Patriot Front, whether you like him or you want to support their tactics, that's another thing you can be critical of. But they name the Jew. They certainly do. And I think they've been falsely accused of being feds. I think it's a shame that people like Nick Fuentes, who has had a history in the past of not working with people who are aligned with the same interests. So it spawned me to make this video because at to a certain point he does attack, and then to a certain point he doesn't attack. So the attack against Steve Saylor. I think Charlie Kirk has been working with him lately, and of course, Fuentes hates Kirk of all people, and maybe this is what precipitated this new attack. But I think it goes a little deeper than that. Nicholas Fuentes, let's just talk about him for a minute. Nicholas Fuentes was a young guy down at Charlottesville, and his career was ruined. I believe he was going to work for the Daily Wire, and then he just saw the Jewishness of the whole thing, and he, as a young man, said, "I don't want nothing to do with it," which I respect. But then he sort of, for many years there, especially around 2016, 2020, he sort of was all about optics. I remember Patrick Little was going to run for president, and Nick Fuentes came out. Oh, you can't be a third party person and running for president, and he was doing the whole White Lives Matter or whatever it was. I think the slogan was "It's okay to be white," and Nicholas Fuentes came out against the whole optics of Patrick Little. And now if you look at Nick Fuentes, he's really, kind of going after the Jews. And I understand you have to be practical to a certain extent in politics, but he basically weaved this path where he's a polemist who promotes Trump at all costs. Um, he doesn't really, does he really look at Kushner and all this? He kind of wants us to ignore all that. He did a video very recently where he was telling Christians, "Oh, look past the fact that Trump will not endorse an abortion ban." Basically, he says Trump is the best that we can get, and we should at all cost endorse Trump because that's all we have. That's the best bet we have to do anything, and that's, I think, an honest position that he has taken in life. He doesn't believe in third parties. He doesn't believe in activism outside of that. And Trump, him and Kanye were a thing on Alex Jones, right? And they played that for a little while. And Nick Fuentes was invited down in Mar-a-Lago to visit Trump, and Trump went. Nick Fuentes was there, but Trump distances himself from him all the time. So Trump keeps him at arm length away, but Trump keeps him. He's there basically to take the anti-Semitic vote for Trump. He's there to rally the troops onto the Trump bandwagon for the Republican Party. That's Nicholas Fuentes' role. Now, I'm not saying that anyone out there should not vote for Trump. What I'm just trying to say is Trump is just a band aid, a very small band aid about the problems that we have. You need to do something fundamentally different if you're concerned about the European birth rate, the abortion of white babies, the in this world. You need to do something fundamentally different about the political situation, and Trump is just a little band-aid on it. Trump is not this the ultimate solution. But Trump, he needs all the votes he can. He'll tell you everything. And and basically, if you watch Nicholas Fuentes for any period of time, he always comes back to that. Vote for Trump. He's on Alex Jones. What is he doing on Alex Jones? Him and Alex Jones are kibitzing together about, well, we need Trump. Clutching their hands, saying Trump is all there is. If it's not Trump, we're in trouble. And that begs the question, really, what's Trump going to do when he gets in there? And that's the reality of it. Now, I'm not talking about whether he should get prosecuted for being with a hooker. Obviously not. But Trump has continuously surrounded himself with Jews, whether it's son-in-law Jared Kushner, whether it's the lawyer Cohen who has gotten him in trouble with Stormy Daniel to begin with. Um, they got his number, the Jews, and he's gonna do exactly what they want. He's even said something to the effect of getting the Palestinians, you know, um, the Hamas. And you think he's going to go against Israel? Absolutely not. I don't even think Trump's going to end. He won't end the war with in the Ukraine against Russia. I doubt he will do anything differently than Biden's doing there. He might campaign a little bit differently, but not. True. The border situation, which a lot of people feel is the most, I do feel that Trump will do something there. But again, after 4 years, we're back to square one. You follow? Whether it's a Republican or Democrat. And how much can you really do? How effective ultimately is that? And people have to start thinking in those terms. But Nicholas Fuentes, I think he's a true believer. I think he really believes in keeping all the hens together on the Trump reservation, no matter what. Um, is it money? I don't think necessarily that's the motivation. I kind of put yourself in this guy's shoes. This guy was banned from everything after Charlottesville, and he put a lot into this whole Trump thing as a young man. He won't let go. But what is he going to do after? If Trump gets elected, and I think he will, and after 4 years, well, then what? Is somebody going to run to replace Trump? I don't think so. I don't think the Republicans will field another Trump kind of like candidate for a long time after him, but we'll see. Then what is Fuentes going to do? Is Fuentes going to like tell us to endorse a Mitt Romney sort of guy, and he's the best that we can deal with? Um, it's an interesting question, one that I don't have the answer for. But what again, getting back to this Steve Saylor, boom, there's this Twitter war where he's accusing Steve Saylor basically of being a Jew, and I have to say that I agree with Nick Fuentes' analysis on this. Um, what I don't agree with Nick Fuentes is, if that is your reality, if you know that there's a Jewish problem, why won't you reach out to the broader audience? I think very recently he he did a podcast with Richard Spencer, but as we all know, Richard Spencer, um, it seems to me, he was sort of in a way like Fuentes. He was very up there in working with the Republican Party. Um, that he was part of the Republican Party apparatus. So the fact that they could have mend their feud and get together, it doesn't seem to be very um, unlikely, if you ask me. They seem to be in many ways birds of a feather in a way. Richard Spencer at the time, he wasn't telling people to vote for a third party candidate, but he was pretty much on the Trump bandwagon, and basically leading all these young men, kind of misdirecting them to vote for Trump, and that somehow we're going to find some answer there. Uh, Again, it's never really the solution. So Fuentes has to give us some red meat, and he does. And I thank him for that. I thank him for revealing that. Um, he revealed that basically Steve Saylor is funded by the Claremont Institute, which has a lot of, he basically talks about CIA or government apparatus or basically Jewish ties. Uh, he also works, he does a lot of articles for Taki magazine, which is a so-called conservative, magazine. And if you recall, uh, I just heard the other day, E. Michael Jones, author of The Jewish Revolutionary Spirit, when he kind of came out and started talking about, the Jews as being a problem for our culture, he was at, I believe it was an event, was it the Sam Francis Memorial? I believe Taki was there, the actual publisher of Taki magazine. Uh, Whatever he, Michael Jones said, he started talking about the Jews, are Jewish people white? I think was the question asked, and Taki came out. We're all going to get arrested. Like he panicked because uh, uh, E. Michael Jones started talking about um, Jews and race to a certain extent, and it seemed like there was an acceptable discourse and an unacceptable discourse. And with Steve Saylor, while he's somewhat flying high right now, is it's become apparent to the Jews that the blacks and Hispanics and through the Palestinians, through the protest in Colombia, the leftist part have been protesting the state of Israel, and this has been deemed unacceptable to them. So what do? They have to go back and bring in the white soldiers, the white people to rally against, the blacks, and the blacks are the real problem. You see what I mean? To get the whites to be more focused on black issues and less focused on Israel. So they're trying to form this sort of uneasy alliance, but it's still too little, too late. You know, for many years, the Jews have been on the other side. They're promoting black, promoting DEI, promoting all these things that affect um, whites negatively, affirmative action and so forth. And now the chickens have come home to roost and they don't like it and they want to go back to the way things were, but they can't. The genie can't be put back into the bottle, so to speak, from what has already been done. And I think they're going to find it very hard to. And so that's basically it in a nutshell. Um, they want to use the blacks, and they want the blacks and the whites to be fighting their battles for each other, just like they want the Russians and the Ukrainians killing each other, and who's taking all the spoils. As someone like Zelensky, they want us to not focus on Israel, on Gaza, and so that's basically what Trump's there to do. But Trump's not going to do that, and I, for the life of me, Nick Fuentes doesn't really answer that question. You know, Nick Fuentes, he brings up, how the he kind of brings up. He doesn't really say how the gas chambers were fake, but he says he's ironic. He kind of goes to the edge with that, and he won't cross over the Rubicon. He won't cross over to the river to see. He doesn't bring us completely there. He brings us to an edge, but only to a certain edge. And I think it's because Fuentes knows what his role is. The only reason Fuentes was invited with Kanye to Trump, because it serves a purpose of Trump getting elected. Is to keep the the white people are so anti-Semitic right now in their hearts that they had enough of it, and I think the playbook is, let's focus on the inner city, the black problems, and so forth. But again, um, Trump may get elected from it, but the result, the actual result, is to have for white people to have any recourse or establish in their community, you don't see it. You know, you don't see it at all. That's my more than 2 cents. Tell me what you think. Peace out.